The end of democracy. You might have heard last year that President Joe Biden had a renewed plan to fix U.S. supply chain issues. What you weren't told by the lying news media was that Joe Biden created the supply chain crisis by requiring mandatory vaccinations across the supply chain, including for America's truck drivers. This is similar to how the news media lied for Joe Biden about a federal vaccine mandate kicking in. These reporters are lying. It is a Joe Biden vaccine mandate that has fired doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers across the United States. Joe Biden created these crises because to the Democratic Party, power is more important than national unity. And we're seeing the culmination of this attitude with other leftists in North America. Take a look at these cross-country truckers, both American and Canadian, protesting against the Canadian government's mandatory vaccinations for truck drivers. These are the people
this started with vaccine mandates.
These truck drivers are the people you depend on to get the medicine, the food, all the grocery goods, all of the products in stores in your neighborhood. Without truckers, you don't get any of these things. You would actually starve to death. And politicians have decided that their top enemy is not terrorists, is not illegal immigration. The top enemy of leftist, socialist, progressive politicians are truck drivers. Listen in.
For most here, it's about a lot more.
I think this is more of a freedom movement.
Well over 1,000 people lining the Trans-Canada Highway outside of Winnipeg in minus 30 wind chills, protesting what they call government overreach.
Somebody has to stand up for Canada, and the truckers are doing it.
It all started a couple days ago in Delta, BC. Truckers protesting vaccine mandates at the border. Now, as the convoy logs more kilometers, it's getting more support.
We're just really tired of getting our freedoms trampled on.
It's worth sticking up for what you believe in.
Arriving outside Winnipeg, hundreds of vehicles taking more than an hour to pass.
We came from Calgary.
Yeah. What do you think of this?
What do we? It's awesome.
To take our country back.
This is the Trans-Canada Highway heading east into Winnipeg. Convoy was supposed to stop here. So many people showed up, it had to keep rolling through.
Now think about this for a moment. The weather, as reported by CBC, is 30 below zero. And these people are showing up to support the truck drivers. These truck drivers are not freaks. They're not crazy. They're not extremists. They're not insurrectionists. These are the people who work, and politicians, by definition, are not the people who work. But they've targeted truck drivers in Canada, they've targeted truck drivers in America, and they've targeted healthcare workers to tighten the grip of the Democratic Party and whatever they have in Canada over ordinary people. Leftists love power. It's all they worship. And anything that enables them to tighten their grip on the common people, on the peons, on the peasants that they look down upon every day, they seize it as the greatest opportunity they've had since Leninism, Marxism was invented.
We had every intention of not stopping them, but there's too many people. Like, look at here, we're going to get people run over.
As it rambled by, no one was hit. It was peaceful. Salvatore Vetro has followed since BC.
It's a togetherness like I've never felt before.
This is what national unity looks like. It is a national unity based on an artificial crisis created by people like Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden. How do you know that these political leaders are responsible for this? CBS News. Marvel star Evangeline Lilly attended D.C. rally against COVID vaccines and mandates by CBS News reporter Lee Cohen. Now, this is one of the most shocking examples of modern journalism in 2022 that it even shocked me, and I'm jaded to most forms of slanted, biased modern journalism. Let's just read through the article. Evangeline Lilly, who plays the Wasp in Marvel's films, attended a rally in Washington, D.C. over the weekend against COVID-19 vaccine mandates. This rally was the same one where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. compared vaccine policies to the Holocaust. Now note the group shaming concept here. This has no origin in American journalism, where if you attend a rally, at no time prior in our country's history did a reporter say, I will hold you personally responsible for the views of every single person at any protest that you attend. This is the new attitude of journalism, and apparently it's meant to serve the Democratic Party. Now take a look at Evangeline Lilly here. She is a vax Democrat for medical freedom, yet she is standing up for your freedom not to get vaccinated against COVID, because as the science has clearly shown, as soon as you get one vaccine, another variant will pop up. Viruses mutate every 6 months. The vaccinations will never end, which means the mask mandates requiring you to wear a mask will never end, and the requirement to be vaccinated and have booster shots will never end, because as long as leftist Democrat politicians want power, which is always, you will never be freed from these mandates as required by the federal government. So this is a Hollywood actress. She's a Democrat. She is also pro-choice. She's fought on many issues for the Democratic Party. But because she's not following their narrative today, she is labeled an enemy to the movement, an enemy to the state. There was a time many decades ago that CBS News stood for honesty, integrity, and impartiality in reporting the facts. But that was before Dan Rather decided to throw a presidential election by faking National Guard memos. Since then, incredibly, CBS News has slid even further. Let's read on. So, from the first paragraph, look at this. Why is it a crime for Evangeline Lilly not to have said what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said at this protest? When did the news media ever hold an entire protest responsible for the personal views of every single person at that protest? They never did. This standard was never applied to a single protest by the progressive left or by the Democratic Party. But they create a new standard when they're attempting to frame a narrative. They repeatedly emphasize Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s comments because they don't really have anything offensive that Evangeline Lilly herself said, so they're attempting guilt by association. Lilly posted photos from the rally to her Instagram on Thursday. I was in D.C. this weekend to support bodily sovereignty while Canadian truckers were rallying for their cross-country peaceful convoy in support of the same thing. That's this footage I showed you of the Canadians.
And it keeps growing.
I believe nobody should ever be forced to inject their body with anything against their will under any threat whatsoever. This is in fact the classic liberal Democrat position of my body, my choice. Now it's your body, Biden's choice. This is not the way. This is not safe. This is not healthy. This is not love, she said. I understand the world is in fear, but I don't believe that answering fear with force will fix our problems. I was pro-choice before COVID, and I'm still pro-choice today, meaning her body, her choice. The problem is the fear that we have in the world today is simply because people like Joe Biden are in power. If Joe Biden was not president, healthcare workers would not be fired. If Joe Biden was not president, truckers would not be fired. If Joe Biden was not president, you would not be finding a supply chain crisis. All of this is an artificial crisis created by Democrats and leftists who want more control.
Trucker Robert Jorgens.
They want more control over you, your family, and your nation. Everything about this is artificial and created by people who have all the power in the world. Joe Biden and his friends are rich beyond all measure. They have all the power beyond measure. But if you're a leftist, if you're a Democrat Party official, all the power you have today at the start of 2022 is still not enough. You need more power. You need more money. You need more control over the populace. And this is how leftists always behave, whether in America or Canada. It doesn't matter what the crisis is, because they will create fake crises in order to control the populace even more. Control means more power for the parties involved. And the people that are showing up to this trucker convoy recognize that. If you give a leftist a tiny bit of power, they will never stop taking that power. And they will continue pushing until power is all theirs and you have none of your own. And it will be the end of democracy. Thank you.